Did anybody know what happened to Damon? He just went off. Okay. Okay. Well, maybe he'll be back. We'll let him in if he does. Okay. You can move on, Mr. Chair,
They'd like to get a reading of the minutes.
or a motion.
More motion to dispense and approve minutes from June 4th.
I move that we dispense the reading of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are number 7.
Okay. Before we continue with the meeting, I'd like to ask the director to introduce the new energy director.
Okay. I don't know that, I know that Larry Bingle introduced himself when, a few years ago when he was coming over, but I don't know how many people, knew who he was, but he was the gentleman that from time to time would be sitting over here and would speak up. Well, Larry has retired, and Alan York is the new energy director. And Alan, if you would just let everybody know where you come from. You don't have to say that you're a Clemson fan.
I'm beyond a fan. I'm an alum. So, but I'm Alan York. I for a long time served as an attorney for the Oil and Gas Commission, and then post transformation, I spent a couple of years working within DEQ as the associate director of the Office of Water Quality. And then most recently, I have served as the director of operations for the Department of Energy and Environment. I handled fleet, facilities, some IT matters, et cetera. And then on Larry Bingle's retirement as chief administrator of energy and mineral resources, the secretary asked me to serve in this role. Happy and proud to do it. Excited for a new challenge. I also serve as the director of the Oil and Gas Commission.
Right, and that's something that Larry did as well, right?
Correct.
He was the director of the Oil and Gas Commission, and then he served as director for energy and environment.
Correct.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you, Alan. And like I said, he's already helped with this policy. I was afraid that we were not going to be able to get anything done, but glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Number 8.
Updates on Kevin, can you update us on any permits for territory expansion since our last meeting?
Absolutely. We had no class 1 applications that have come in since our last meeting. Our class 3 through 10s, Mena KOA, a class 3, of course, out of Mena. Fort Smith Alma RV Park, out of class 3 out of Alma. Bella Point, a class 3 out of Springdale. Rustic Ridge RV Park, class 3 out of Huntsville. Span and Rose, 3 locations, Jacksonville, Greenbrier, and Cabot. And they bought out Whit Davis. Is that right, Keisha? They bought out Whit Davis Lumber. And Span and Rose, they're out of Iowa. It's really an interesting company. So they had to reapply, and those are really not new. They just rolled from Whit Davis to Span and Rose. Denton Ferry RV Park up in Cotter. Alliance Energy Midstream, 3 locations, Bono, Little Rock, and West Memphis. And this is the company that bought out NGL, all their terminals. So probably some of y'all might have already had dealings with them. M&T Plumbing, and all of those were class 8s. M&T Plumbing out of Hope, class 10, and Specialty RTP, a class 10 out of Stratford, Texas. And here in a minute, Perry's going to be at the table, and he'll bring a piece of plumbing that will correspond to Specialty RTP. The territory expansion since the last time we met, SunGas out of Damascus, got Prairie. Matador Gas out of Melbourne, got Van Buren, Pope, Conway, Yell, Perry, and Johnson. And then LaFerry's Propane out of Prairie Grove, got Madison, Newton, Searcy, Van Buren, Claiborne, and White. Any questions or comments about those permits that we issued? Okay,
Are there any other matters coming before the board? Policies.
oh, you got something, Paul?
Do we have a motion? Do we need a motion to accept those?
We don't need a motion on these, just on class ones.
Okay.
There's nobody
Okay.
for me to roll on with the financial. All right. So the next thing we want to go over is the financial report, and this is, we haven't met since the end of last fiscal year. So I just wanted to give everybody a snapshot, and everybody should have this either through email or in front of you if you're here at the office. So our FY25 appropriation was $629,571. We had $80,000 in capital. And then these are the expenditures for each month. We've added, well, we met in June. We did not have June. So 47,200 ended the month of June. And then our expenses for the year were 568,255. And then the revenue that we brought in was 372,434. And then we always give the prior year as a comparison for the entire fiscal year in 24. Our expenses were just a little bit more, almost flat, 574,896. And through June, we had taken in about $50,000 more dollars in revenue. And of course, I want to remind everybody every time the decision that we've made to dispense with some fees, which is a good thing. It's drawing down our fund. That's what we want it to do. It just, you know, if you're used to business, it's a different way to look at things, and it can be, no, that's not having a good year. No, we're having a great year. All right. So FY26, our appropriation for the year is $719,340,000. We've got 50,000 of that in capital. We're going to try to get at least one inspector vehicle replaced this fiscal year, and then 30,000 of that was a grant to the APGA. We have, if you all recall, at our last meeting, we gave them the big check, but we haven't given them the little one yet. We're working on that, and Alan's going to help me get that done. Through August, our expenses are 100,294. You can see July and August are there. Our revenue is $9,600, and last year, the same period of time was $94,514. So we're about flat, up $6,000 in expenses. And then year-to-date revenue was $3,860. So, you know, we've about tripled our revenue. It's all flat. But any questions concerning our finances here at the agency? I always want to remind everybody that you can go into Arkansas Transparency, or you can call the office and ask any questions that you might have. But if nobody has any questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the financial report.
Can I get a motion to accept the financial report?
I move we accept the financial report.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. The next thing that we've got on the agenda is a waiver request. And if you all recall, a couple of years ago, we discovered that nor I or the inspectors has the authority to issue a distance waiver, that it lies in the hands of you all. So what we have been doing, if you can, and I sent you a copy of this, and Perry, if you would join us at the table. This is a request that comes in from over between Mena and Hot Springs. Okay. And so I dropped the little guy down and took a picture so you can get an idea of where we're talking about. But this, you can see the little 250 that's sitting back to the right of the house. Well, and there's a little shop there, and there's a little outbuilding in front, and those little buildings are gone, and there's one big building there right now. And there's 1,000-gallon tank that's located behind that. And one big building there right now. Do what? Oh, I thought one of y'all had a question. But Perry, could you explain more what's going on with this location and why they've asked for a waiver?
The service tech and Nina from Pinnacle called me and asked me to come out and look at it. I went and looked at it. There's 1,000 gallon. There's a better. You see the bright little building there's on the right.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone, and they erected a sheet metal building there. It's a shop. That's all it is, and it's the shop itself is probably about 12 feet from the creek. Between the creek and the shop, it's 1,000 gallon tank. It's about 8 foot from the building. It's a blank wall with a fence on each side, and he asked me to come and look at it, see if I get a waiver.
Okay, so you felt get good yourself issuing the waiver pending the decision of the board. All right.
Let's say it's a shop building, and the wall that the tank is on, it's there's no windows, no doors, and the tank literally, this is the edge of the creek, the tank's right through the edge of the creek. If there's ever any problem, everything's gonna flow over and they're very far away from the building. So it's as far as they can get it, right, literally.
And that is from the domestic structure there, it's probably 25, 30 feet.
This one, the last part, pushing 75 or 100.
Okay, so the proximity, the waiver needs to be issued for the building itself, the shop. It's probably got electricity or something plumbed to it.
That's just about it.
Okay, okay,
It's got lights in it, that's it.
okay. Do you all have any questions from Perry?
No, if he's been on site, I feel comfortable with it.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I just have a question. So, I feel comfortable with the waiver and the evaluation. The question is really more about, when we grant this waiver, how does that translate? So say the owner sells his property the next day. Is there any kind of translation other than just they would need to communicate that or?
That would be the owner, right? This is for that tank at that location. It doesn't have to do anything to do with the ownership. It's, the waiver is for that tank at that location. So, Chair, if there's nothing else, can entertain a motion to accept the distance waiver.
Can I get a motion to accept the distance waiver for Mina?
Second.
All in favor?
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then that RTP, that specialty RTP that I mentioned that got their class 10. We have a permit holder over in the western part of the state, Northwest, that is putting in a facility, and they plumbed this thing completely with RTP, that reinforced thermoplastic, which, according to 58, is legal to use for liquid. And I had never seen this product, and Perry stopped by and tested them, made sure that they were training and had the proper training for this pipe. I don't know, guys. I think that as far as safety goes, there's no problem with it. Aesthetically, I think it's a nightmare. It's like spaghetti out there, you know? And I don't know if it saved them money or if it saved them time, or I don't know.
Supposed to save them money,
Supposed to have saved them money.
time to they did all the work in 3 days.
Is that right? Well, there was a lot of plumbing, so I can see it would have probably taken, if we were doing welding flange, a week, 2 or 3 guys a week. I've looked at it.
They have a roll. You've seen
A poly pipe?
it's like a poly pipe, like it's a big roll, as big as a pickup. And there's 4 of them working. There's 2 measuring and marking. They take it into the building where they're gonna be filling cylinders. And a real scientific way of cutting, they use a sawzall.
Oh, really? They just use a sawzall.
Use that in. So how does they look at? Well, then they put this pipe on a pipe vise, took a belt sander, sanded it around until it meets the proper diameter. They have a strip that tested it. Then they took the end, it's a crimp end, put a steel cap on it, on this pipe bias, took a sledgehammer, beat it on there till it's far enough onto the pipe. Then they have a device, it's a hydraulic press. They clamped the pipe into the vise and pushed it on there, put the cap on there to a point, then took it off, did it again till it popped. And it popped, it means it's in the right position. And the collar on it is about that long. It's a substantial fitting. That's the way they did it.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that in for everybody to take a look at. This is the first installation in the state of Arkansas that has used this, and it's in a really good location for the first one. It's probably closer to you, David, than anybody. What's the little town?
Branch.
Branch.
Familiar.
Yeah, it's up at Branch. Oh, yeah, I think you would be.
Yeah.
You would be
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They took a bowl of spaghetti and dumped it on top of that plant. I'm just like, I'm used to hard, straight lines. It's kind of hard to get used to.
yeah, yeah. All right, Perry, thank you. Okay, the next thing that's on the agenda, you all remember last time we met, we went over our rules. I'm going to go ahead and Gene, can you unmute?
Yes, sir. I am here.
All right, you can hear us good?
Yes, sir. I can hear you perfectly well.
Okay. This is Gene Morrison with a gas equipment company out of Dallas. And like the day after or 2 days after our last board meeting, when we went over our rules and you all had sought to maintain the policy and rule of not allowing forklift cylinders to be filled with a bobtail. Well, Gene calls me and introduces this as an alternative to that. And you all have both pages that show this piece of equipment that they're building down there. And Gene, I'm going to go ahead and tell them a little bit about it, then you correct me, and then take any questions that the board might have. So the idea behind this is you've got a DOT barrel of some size. This particular one is how many gallons, Gene?
This one was 3,200 gallons.
Okay, 3,200 gallon barrel. This is a DOT approved device. It is mounted to this fifth wheel, pulled with a 1 ton or a 2 ton, whatever. And then this would go on site. There is a set of scales, correct, Gene?
Yes, sir. There are scales that will be with it.
Okay, and there's also a reduced GPM pump that's used
Yes,
for this. So they're bringing this idea and asking that the board approve this to be used in those type of applications. And Gene, if you would like to expand on that, please feel free for.
Yes, and thank you for the time, everyone. Again, as Kevin introduced me, I'm Gene Morrison. I am the Dispensing Systems Product Manager at Gas Equipment. So this piece of equipment is actually engineered by Exocent Engineering out of Navasota, Texas, in conjunction with us. It is a fully DOT certified trailer as well as tank. They are a transport and bobtail manufacturer themselves. So the trailer design is also engineered by them and is specifically built with all the cradle points and the balance requirements for this specific tank to sit on it, to ensure the highest level of safety that we can. All of the piping, as you can see in the pictures that Kevin had showed before, is welded flanged piping, the same as it would be on the back of a bobtail. The pictures, the iteration in these pictures had a 2-inch pump on it. But for this specific application, we are actually changing from a 2-inch pump down to a 22 GPM pump that will be placed in that hole and then plumbed into the metering system. So between the VFD control for the motor and the flow rate of the pump itself, we've tuned it way down. The application here is for a large customer site that has, I believe, somewhere between 300 and 400 cylinders that they're filling on a daily basis to be able to use this with a propane marketer who is licensed to fill in the state of Arkansas. They will transport this back and forth from their storage to be able to refill it because they go through, they're going to go through about 2 tank loads a day. They'll transport it and then they'll do filling on the customer site with scales at the different areas. The need for the mobile use is because the cylinders are not in a centralized location at the customer facility. As it was explained to me, I believe there's 4 different spots where the cylinders are housed. So they'll move around from one spot to the next to be able to do the filling at those independent locations.
What size cylinders are they filling?
Forklift bottles is what I was told.
This is something that the company would own that's servicing them, or is this something that this manufacturer would they own it?
The propane marketer owns this. They are going to purchase this from me if we can get it approved to be able to use for this application. So the propane marketer will own and operate this equipment. They will service it, they will maintain it, and make sure that it's up to date on all of the requirements.
What are the scales?
The scales are going to be set at the actual filling sites. They're not on the trailer itself because they won't maintain their balancing. So once they have them set to the 4 locations of the cylinders, that's where they'll be filling, which is where the hose reel comes in. They can pull the hose out and be able to fill at the scale there where all the cylinders are located.
I think this is a great solution for a heavy lifting problem that we've had. Personally, we've seen this issue with filling forklift bottles off site with repetitive injury from lifting the bottles and putting them in steel cages and loading them on the truck and putting them back in. This would eliminate a lot of heavy lifting, repetitive motion that just can't be automated. I actually believe if done right, and the parameter is set, like I could imagine something on site at that location, almost like a safe zone that they're going to back that into, that would give the complete distance, safety distance from forklifts pulling up. Would need to make sure that those bottles were not filled on the forklift. And I would assume that everything would be scaled at that point because you've got scales on site. There would be no reason for them to get lazy and start filling forklifts off, just offloading onto the forklift.
Right. That would be a concern and something. Brooke, did you have a
I have a
question?
So, and I understand this very, very specific application of this trailer in that one particular site, but would the endorsement be for the trailer to be used in the state? So how would that work at sites that maybe don't have that same scale? Maybe they don't have scales set up in the same way. Would that be something we would specify or?
That, they would have, you have to have scales. So.
Yeah.
I think Brooke may be touching on something like I don't know if this could be accepted as some kind of exception instead of a rule. If we made a rule accepting this, then of course there would be other people that would have the same need at maybe a smaller scale. Say it's 1,000-gallon tank in a pump, and I go and fill 20 bottles a week or whatever. I think the only difference in us filling this off of a bobtail and filling it now is the specialized equipment was slowing the rate down, and having that is really the only difference between this and being a bobtail type delivery.
Could you expand that to fill 100 pounders and 20 pounders?
I'm assuming that question is towards me, Damon. Yes, actually,
Yeah.
this version came in the picture to the left on screen. You can see there's a blue trailer behind it. We started this project actually in doing 1,000-gallon tanks, specifically autogas filling for temporary infrastructure for autogas fleets. And then when the permanent infrastructure is in place and ready to operate, they can move this trailer on to the next site to be able to deploy. We grew and expanded into the larger scale option like this because of the need for more gallons on the site or in a more remote location. But as far as adaptability, we can adapt any pump system that we wanted into there, and same with the filling nozzles. We can adapt them. I've built smaller version 1,000-gallon tanks with just a Corkin C12 that's literally just for remote bottle filling. We deployed 2 of them out to North Carolina after the hurricane to be able to fill 20-pound cylinders in disaster relief. So we have we have complete control of the design of it, so we can make adaptability to any specific need, as well as having kind of a standard package that fits multiple needs.
So the board made it clear that they wanted everything to be filled on scales. And then the rate, the flow of rate coming off a bobtail did not want that to happen, right?
Right.
So if scales are located, and let's say that somebody had a bobtail and they plumbed in a smaller pump, is the board recognizing that would suffice if this would?
Same as this.
It would be the same as that, right?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I want to, you know, the safety boxes are checked for me when you slow the rate of fill from a 60-gallon a minute potential 3-inch pump down to gas equipment. What did we put on this truck?
This pictured version is a 2-inch pump. And I will notate one quick thing before you continue, Mr. Paul, is a major difference between the design of this trailer and what a bobtail can do is we don't run off of a PTO. If you'll notice at the front, we're actually running a generator that operates the electric motor. So we run through a variable frequency drive, which allows us to control digitally the hertz that's delivered to the motor, which in turn slows down the RPMs even more so. And if you'll notice on the pump that's in there, it's a belt driven pump. So we're able to change the pulley system out as well. So we can, from manufacturing side of things, limit the maximum capacity that a pump is able to put out versus a PTO on a bobtail that is slowed down and you're kind of guessworking how many gallons a minute you're flowing. We can make an exacting number of how many gallons are flowing even out of a 2-inch pump. But for this application, we were going to change the pump system out completely. That's not even capable of doing more than 22 gallons a minute, even if it had full power going to it.
So the refill station will need to be a minimum of 50 feet from the truck, from this apparatus, to satisfy point of addition for the generator.
Yes, 25 feet class 1 div 2 area. So we're more than 5 feet away from the tank. It is a div 2 spark arresting generator. So that's how we're able to mount it there above the 48 inches and more than 5 feet away from the tank. And then we'll have a 100-foot hose on the hose reel. So we'll be more than 25 feet away from the apparatus when they're filling the forklift bottles as well.
I think I could get way more comfortable with this. I mean, I think what we'll have to put in place is essentially somehow where that's going to be put when it's on site. Like scale is here, truck goes here inside this white box, and that distance is never, compromised. That would be my greatest concern in filling bottles with this type of setup.
Yeah, I've got a question similar to that, Paul. When you have a mobile filling station like that, how do you how do you control the, or keep track of the scales on recertification? You know, usually it's a set location and they come by and recertify everything.
Well, the
To me,
scales,
this way scales could get lost in the system if we don't
well,
find a way to.
I think they're gonna have 4 sets of scales at this one location. And I mean, they'll just have to pay for registration and yearly recertification of those scales.
Correct. The scales are not on the trailer itself, Damon, to answer your question. They're at the location, the customer location, so they won't transport
Right.
with the trailer.
No, I understand that, but usually when you have a filling station, the state goes and certifies it, and then each year they get the scales certified and everything. Here, you've got a mobile filling station, so how are we gonna? So the only the location would be only the scales that would need to be recertified and inspected. I'm just saying, it seems to me that a truck could go further out and go fill where there are no scales. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that ties back to my question, which is how do we keep from authorizing this for one very specific use, but making sure that if it's used in other ways, it still meets the expectation.
And I guess if I understand your question correctly, Damon, like how do you quantify or check to make sure that the marketer isn't driving somewhere else that is an unknown area that they're using this in, correct?
Yeah, let's say you get a customer, or your customer gets a customer, and he's got 15 100-pounders at a job site, and it's going to be freezing, and he's got to keep the drywall going. He calls you, and he's willing to pay whatever. What's to keep that truck from running by and throwing gas in those 100-pounders and with no scales on the situation on the premises?
Well, nothing keeps them from doing that with the bobtail now if they've got the right device, because I've hired 2 different people for doing the same thing off their truck immediately when I found the apparatus in the back of their truck. I mean, you could do it at any time, but the scale is the location certification from the scale would be, where the permit, I guess they would, Kevin, would we actually issue this location a permit? Or would this be an extension of the dealer with the permit? How
Yeah,
would that look?
This is this situation is an end user on private property. And we do not track, or we do not permit, or we do not register scales. That is weights and measures that does that. That's a function that we do not control. We can control saying you have to use scales, but the scale being located there itself is not something that that the gas board controls. That's our friends over at Weights and Measures.
Could we have control of where they place their trailer, this trailer and tank?
Now, we could do that. We do have control over distance.
Seems like we would need to get each one of these approved and go by that particular site plan that we designed and approve, that the inspector, approves. And then if they're outside of that perimeter, then there's where we would have the authority to shut them down or fine them.
Kevin, how do you permit those trailers?
It would have to be,
I mean, your inspectors would have to inspect it once a year, right? Like bobtails and stuff?
yeah, I mean, it would be similar to a bobtail, so it would need a decal. There would need to be a permit to be able to transfer to offload or load in the state of Arkansas. So there would have to be a permit associated with this. In this situation, it would be a class one because they're delivering to the end user. So the class one would have to be permitted, and then this piece of equipment would have to be decaled and inspected by our inspectors. And we could come up with an inspection. Most of our traditional bobtail inspection would take care of the majority of this trailer. Don't you all think, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same equipment, basically.
Yeah, that's right. So
That's the specialized, generator, but I mean, we've got an engine. We don't inspect engines on trucks and that kind of thing. So
you do not. We do not. We require now, something, Gene, and you probably have already thought of this, or it will be the dealer's responsibility, but we have fire extinguisher requirements. And that would either be located on this piece of equipment or the truck itself.
it's going to have to be close to the scales, Kevin, too,
right.
because the distance is going to be too far there. If they need the distance requirement, the distance from the fire extinguisher is going to be too far.
Yes, and I recognize I'm in kind of a limbo position presenting with you guys here because a lot of the stuff that you're talking about with ensuring that they're using the scales, the fire extinguishers, those things are typically the responsibility of the marketer that's using the equipment from us as an OEM that we're sending out there, because we don't necessarily know all the intricacies of every single state association or AHJ's requirements.
Right.
But again, I'm here also because I want to make sure that if there are questions, because this is kind of a new piece of equipment that's unseen on the market, or at least adapted in a way that's not been seen or used before, I want to make sure I answer all the questions, and satisfy all those curiosities to the best that I can. But I would fully expect that the marketer that's going to be using it is going to be doing everything that they're supposed to do from their responsibility side of things, just the way as any other piece of equipment that I sell to them would be.
Well said.
So gas equipment, how many, I guess the state of Texas possibly have these deployed, and you have track record with multiple uses of this same. This is not something unique and new, maybe new to Arkansas, but not new to Texas or other areas.
That is correct. I actually I have an identical unit to this with a dual hose assembly on it that is at the Port of Newark, New Jersey, that is authorized by the DCA Port Authority, and it is actually filling all their port tractors up there. That was the first of its kind, first of any kind of trailer to that capacity. We have 2 that are in California. I have 4 units in Florida. I have units in Wisconsin, Minnesota. We are building 2 more units right now. I have one that's in Mississippi. I also have a unit that's in Texas, of varying sizes and layout designs. But the general overall concept is pretty much the same for all of them, just tailored to a specific need for those end users. And I've also presented this and showed MPGA and Chris Wagner at the Southeast Convention, Southeast Propane Expo. We went over with a fine tooth comb both of these smaller and larger versions. And it's the stance from the MPGA side of things that we're meeting all of the requirements from NFPA side of things. And with their specialty exceptions with the mobile fueling, we meet and exceed those expectations as well. So to this point, aside from in California, some local AHJs wanting some additional safeties put in place um, just for their individual municipality, I've not run into any issue with any state authority that I've dealt with thus far with getting approval. And again, as I said, the first one of the large bobtail versions is actually at the Port of Newark, New Jersey, and it's fueling all of their port tractors that they have running on propane up there.
We have one added level here with the scales in Arkansas? Is that unique to Arkansas from what you've seen so far in these applications? Or are they allowing outage gauge fills with those locations on tractors or?
In California, the scales are required. In Florida, the scales are required. The only other location that I have filling bottles is in Texas, and they're allowing the outage gauge to be filled with there. The units that I have in Wisconsin and Minnesota are autogas, and then obviously the one that's in the port of Newark is autogas. So it's a stop fill that's on the vehicle itself.
Yeah, those are
So that's a
DOT.
different application.
And the difference between us and what NFPA 58 allows, those that have adopted 58, and we had this discussion at our last meeting, allows on-site fill off bobtails. And the board, we had a policy in place to not allow that, and you all voted to maintain that. And so obviously with this type of situation, and if we would allow on-site fill, a bobtail would just go in there and this trailer would not be needed. But we don't allow that. And so this is trying to meet the concerns and needs that brought the board to the point where they said no, where you all said no to on-site fill off bobtails.
Kevin, this is Damon. Do you have any reservations of this type of mobile rig filling any other type of cylinders, any DOT cylinders?
You know, I think the only safe way to fill a cylinder is on a scale. And then there are some concerns with the speed of the pump. This addresses both of those. You know, bobtails are pushing 200,000 now. I could see, if this is a 3,200 gallon barrel, I don't know that this realistically could not be used for domestic delivery, and at a much more reasonable rate than a complete bobtail. I don't know, realistically the thousands and thousands of gallons that a bobtail throughput has each year, if this could stand up to that. But, what I'm saying is that if there is a scale there and we have reduced capacity, Damon, to Paul's point earlier, if somebody's going to go in and not use the scales for this, then they're going to go in with a bobtail. You can violate rules all kinds of different ways. This application, and I have an idea of the customer that this is designed for, and most of these companies that are this large, their exposure is so great just because of the manufacturing that's going on that they're going to abide and make sure that rules are followed. That's kind of the way I look at it.
This checks every box that we didn't want to do last time.
The only one it doesn't is multiple connections and disconnections at one location. Where you're making several different connections and disconnections. It's not in a controlled environment like a propane plant.
Right.
This is out in somebody's backyard. Outside of that, it does.
Well, this is Damon again. I think that point was brought up earlier about how do you set aside the location? Do we care about that? Or do they just call weights and measures each year and get their scales certified?
Yeah.
Usually when you set up a reseller or a bottle filler, the inspectors come out, they inspect at the location, everything. I mean, would this wouldn't even involve our inspectors then, right? Just weights and measures.
It would involve our inspectors for the unit itself on an annual basis, just like
Right, that's it.
But as far as our inspectors coming into that site, it would not. This is private property. It's like a paper mill or something like that. So it would not. Our inspectors would not be in this facility. It would be only weights and measures going by to certify the scales.
Right. And then what kind of certification would the driver have to have? Just a bottle filling certification?
No, at this point, he's pulling a vessel that is the size of a bobtail. We would probably require the same certification as a bobtail.
But being a trailer doesn't differentiate that?
Doesn't to me.
Okay.
Well, yeah, you just- it's a gooseneck hitch versus, yeah.
Right.
So,
Right. All the equipment that would be dealing with would be what a bobtail driver would deal with.
wouldn't be good
Yeah.
with the transport. I mean, basically, so.
And from our previous DOT dealings, they have to have their Class A CDL and their hazmat to be able to transport this one, because it is a DOT cylinder made to transport with liquid propane full in the tank.
Right. Yeah, it'd be no
So
different than a bobtail going down the road.
Yeah, so it's a A, not a B.
Correct. It is a Class A
Okay.
CDL.
Okay. And is this self-sustained? I mean, can the truck pull away and this be parked somewhere and then used? Or is
Yes,
part of the
that's
equipment in the truck?
Nope, none of the equipment. It is 100% self-contained, which is a part of the reason for the design concept. I know Kevin, you had mentioned earlier about the viability of this as a bobtail. The purpose of this is it's a large capital expense to buy something like this. It's very similar to buying a bobtail. You do have some cost savings, but the advantages of this is you're able to use it at least is how we market it, is able to use it in locations and necessities when you have to have a bobtail. If you need excess capacity during the winter months, or you have a truck that goes down, you can hook up with a 1-ton and your driver can go do the same route that he would do with his bobtail. But in the months where you're not using it, you don't need it, you can set it as a temporary fill station because it's completely self-contained and you can use it for on-site filling. Then you don't have to deploy a bobtail to those smaller capacity fills, where you're kind of wasting that piece of equipment's usage by sitting there. If you'll notice in the picture to the right that you can see the jack stand there in the picture, there's 4 jack stands on the trailer. These are rapid relief jacks that are able to lift the trailer up off the ground. So from full retraction to wheels out of contact from the ground in about 45 seconds. So you're able to pick this entire trailer up full of propane, so the wheels are no longer in contact, and then you can leave it in that locked location while you're filling, and leave it there for as long as you need to until you come back and pick it up again.
Okay. So it's a portable filling station.
Yes, that is correct, sir.
And so Brooke, I think that if you all approve the concept, then, then there would be we would not approve the location itself.
Just the.
Just the piece of equipment and what it's used for.
So we can approve the concept, but in order for the use to be endorsed or approved or allowed, it would still have to meet the qualifications of having the certified scales and distance restrictions.
It would necessarily, we could do that. We just do not our inspectors do not go into private property and inspect those locations. Similarly, if a class 1 dealer went into a paper plant and set up a refueler for them for their forklifts, there are guidelines that they have to meet, but those locations are not inspected. Except from the class 1 dealer. Right. Questions?
Any other questions?
So you can entertain a motion to, approve this piece of equipment, or you can table it, or you can ask what the pleasure of the board is.
Want to table this, or we want to make a motion? What do we want to do?
Well,
Do it.
is there a reason to table it, or do we have other questions? Is Gas Equipment the only company making these, or are there other companies want to come in with similar devices?
There are, Damon, there is a company out of Kansas City that builds them. There is a company out in Utah that builds them.
I
And
mean,
there
I
might
can see a use for them, especially like, in hurricanes, tornadoes, any natural disaster down in Texas. I can see something like this being a real lifesaver to roll in, and the just the scale thing. The scales are just out there. That's the only thing I got a little bit of an issue with. But I guess you just got to trust the guy that's buying it to do it right. I mean, like I say, you could fill 100 pounders off of a bobtail in a neighborhood if you wanted to.
Yeah,
Um,
and I can tell you all that our statute gives our inspectors the ability, at their request, to gain access to anywhere in Arkansas where a propane tank is located, right? So if this was on site, and they can walk into any paper mill today, they can stop and say, I want to see this. They have that authority. Then they could do, on spot checking and observation, through observation, determine if these cylinders are being filled safe or not. Also communication with the end user, whether it's a paper mill or otherwise, and talk to their safety. This is what we want. An inspector can go on ahead of time and visit with the facility and say, hey, this is what our requirements are. We have the ability and authority to do that.
We did go through a big effort to make sure that we had streamlined regulations. Would it be worthwhile for the board to take a minute and look at this and say, all right, here's the criteria. So anybody with a mobile filling station, if you meet this said criteria, then you would, could then move forward, rather than just say this one specific instance for this particular use, so that we don't kind of get back in that same rhythm of very individualized regulations.
That might be wise. I think what Brooke is suggesting is that, for the purposes of the discussion today, that we table it and we come back with criteria that would apply to any application using this type of equipment, for the board to say yes.
well, I got an application, and just help me walk through this. Let's say there's an ice storm down in southeast Arkansas, and the power's out for weeks, and they want to a company has this, and they want to roll it in from 5 counties away, and they want to roll in there, and they want to set it up on the side of the highway at a truck stop to fill cylinders so people have heat. Is that an application that this could be used for? And if so, does the reseller conditions and the inspection come into play, or is because it's portable it doesn't fall under? How,
No,
how would that work?
it would, and I think that this has been one of the things that pushed this design. I think, Gene, you alluded to that some of these are in use over, or maybe it was Luke with Missouri Propane Gas Association, that they own a similar apparatus, and they sent it to North Carolina when those floods happened. There was no electricity, and they were using it to fill cylinders so people could get heat. Damon, I think that is a great application for this.
That is exactly correct. And Luke with Moperk brought those trailers to me, and we actually rebuilt them and refurbished them to get them operational for him again. So you had mentioned there are a couple of other companies that have built small scale 500 gallon or 1,000 gallon portable trailers for bottle filling, or even some limited auto gas applications. but they were taking a domestic AG tank and just slapping it on top of a trailer and kind of making it go, which is why the 2 trailers that Moperk owns were not in proper operation, and he brought them to us. We are the company that actually rebuilt and refurbished those trailers so they could be deployed to North Carolina. Now, they did have ITR stamp on them, who was the original manufacturer of the trailer, but they were not in operating parameters from safety or from actually being able to just turn on and do what they're supposed to do position. So yes, there are some others, but there are not others that are doing it to the scale that we do it, nor are they doing it purpose built for the intended use of the equipment. But that's exactly where a lot of this comes from is rapid deployment, rapid ready piece of equipment that you can use in multiple different facets and multiple different applications. And obviously when you have a situation where power is out, grid is down, you need to be able to give people opportunities for temp heat. This is exactly what you would use this for in this piece of equipment here.
Right, and Damon, our permits would not be violated with this. The individual that would deploy this would have to be permitted for the county that it's set up in. You know, somebody
That's what
that,
I'm asking.
exactly.
That's what I'm asking. You got somebody over in Mena, and then all of a sudden he wants to take advantage of a situation in, in McGee, and then he rolls in there. Is that a class 3? Is that just a, what is
No,
that?
no. This would be a class 1, and they would have to do one or two things: either obtain their class 1 for that county or buy all the counties in between. And that's why I'm saying this piece of equipment would be utilized by a class 1 permit. And they would have to be permitted for the county that they've got this operating deployed in. Or that would be my thinking, but I'm not a board member.
Does the current company that is wanting to buy this Arkansas, they have the class 1 and the
I'm sorry,
is
I
class
broke
1
up.
in that county for this?
The particular, and Gene, the question went to you, but I'll answer it. This piece of equipment and the customer in question, and I don't even know 100% for sure. I am making some assumptions here with my thought process, and I shouldn't do that. But Damon, if this piece of equipment is utilized in Arkansas, it will be by a class 1 permitted dealer that is permitted for the county in which it's deployed.
Okay.
Unless I get instruction from the board otherwise.
Um,
Different about. Okay. All right. So what's the pleasure of the board?
What, Taylor, what are we gonna do? Make a motion?
I think we need to take it and get our ducks in a row and then come back with it.
You could put that in the way of a motion instructing me to come up with specifications for this type of application to be brought back before the board for your approval.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
yeah, I think that.
All right, so Gene, I'll work on putting specifications, and I might be giving you a shout as we put this together for the board to approve at our next board meeting, which will be the first in December.
Understood.
I appreciate you joining us today and bringing this to us. I think this has widespread implications for the industry, and I think this will open the eyes and thought process by a lot of people what it can be used for.
Well, I appreciate the time and the invitation to speak before you all, and I look forward to answering any other questions that may come up.
All right. Thanks, Gene.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Okay. I appreciate you all taking the time to look at that. All right, what do we got next, Chair?
Well, discussion on proper plumbing and gas laws.
Okay, this was brought to my attention, a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know what y'all's individual situations are like, but it seems like we've always struggled when it comes to what is legal and what's not legal when it comes to plumbing a set of gas laws. And I wanted to bring this topic up and discuss it so we could give our inspectors direction concerning this. So you all have a handout, and you that are joining by Zoom should have this as well. I put together a documentation. Everything is pulled out of 54. And I've highlighted the areas that we're going to be looking at. And basically, we've got three different scenarios when it comes to gas logs and properly plumbing them. Number one, you've got a masonry fireplace. Number two, you've got a firebox that has a flue that penetrates the roof line. And then the third is a direct vent type application where you've got the vent that comes out the side of the wall. These are the three main. Am I leaving anything else? Can you all think of another application? A set of logs is replacing wood in a masonry fireplace. A firebox that has a metal flue attached that penetrates the roof line. And a fireplace box that is a direct vent and goes out the side.
What about vent free?
Well, and then when you get into those, all three of those, you've got, except for the direct vent, you've got a vent free application. You've got the decorative fireplace that doesn't have a vent at all. So is that what you're talking about, Damon?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yep. So that would be the fourth one. Right? And so basically that fourth one, we don't have a lot of issues with plumbing those because there's nothing there and you're going to install the entire apparatus and then you're going to plumb to it. Most of the issues come with putting gas logs in a masonry fireplace or in those other two fireboxes. And because these are existing applications, it's not the easiest application to plumb, depending on if the fireplace is, part of the house, how it's built on the outside. Is it on the inside? We drilling. And so we have people doing all kinds of different things out there. And in looking at this is what I've come up with. So I'm going to share my understanding, and then you all can correct me if that needs to be going forward, and then we can come to a resolution. So I want to start with the valve, with the ball valve. All right. A lot of times we'll see a masonry or a firebox application. The gas plumbing will be brought into it, and then there'll be a ball valve inside the firebox, and then some kind of connector coming from the ball valve over to the set of gas logs. Okay. Unless that ball valve is fire rated, it is not legal to plumb it in that way. The ball valve has to be located outside the firebox. And if you will look on, this is 9.6.5.1, and it's on the third page, 9.6.5.1. The shut-off valve should be located within 6 feet of the appliance it serves, except as permitted. And we'll talk about that distance requirement right there. But if you flip the page, B, 9.6.5.1B, shut-off valve servicing decorative appliances in fireplace shall not be located within the fireplace firebox except where the valve is listed for such use. And so that got me to thinking, well, what valves are listed for such use? I called my friend Tim over at Gas Equipment and found out they do not sell a ball valve that is listed for that use. So the blue cap and the red cap that we're used to seeing on a daily basis are not listed to be used inside of a firebox. All right. So that means by and large, and I don't know what type of ball valve or shutoff valve would be listed for use in that location. It just says it has to be listed to be used in that location. The 6-foot rule does not apply in this application because of 9.6.5.2, just below there. Shut-off valves serving appliances installed in vented fireplaces and ventless firebox enclosures shall not be required to be located within 6 feet of the appliance where such valves are readily accessible and permanently identified. The piping from the shut-off valve to within 6 feet of the appliance shall be designed, sized, installed, and tested in accordance with the installations, chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, we're talking about NFPA 54 here, okay? So what this is saying is that if the ball valve is listed to be used inside of a firebox, you can put it there. If not, it has to be installed outside the fireplace. That's where we run in trouble trying to get within 6 feet. That's not easy. They're saying you don't have to do that in this application. You can locate that ball valve 20 feet up that line if it's readily identified. And that's the only thing that it services. It has to be in that trunk line that goes to the set of gas logs. All right. So that's the ball valve part of the equation. Does anybody have anything to add or any questions concerning where the ball valve has to be located and if it's legal to put it inside the firebox or not?
So it's not. I wouldn't have that.
For most applications.
Unless that ball valve is listed to be used inside the firebox, it can't be inside it.
Did gas equipment say they had access to them?
I just called and asked him, I said, do you sell a ball valve that is listed to be used in a firebox? And he asked me, have you been to my house and looked in? And then he said, no, we do not. So that's where I'm going on that. They do not sell a valve that is listed for use inside of a firebox. So if it is listed, you can put it in the firebox right there, and you can put your connector over. That's also listed for use inside of a firebox, and you're done. No problem. But if you don't have one, it has to be located outside that firebox, but it doesn't have to be within 6 feet. You can run it back up the plumbing somewhere.
This is all consist on that part.
That's correct. That's correct.
Kevin, this is what I was telling you, that this is the area we were putting it underneath. This is the way that we always did it, underneath the vent part of the fireplace where we put it. But you're saying that you can't even have it under the firebox?
Yes, you can have it under the firebox, and I've got that picture that I sent up. And so let me go ahead and differentiate between where this picture is showing, and you won't be able to see me because I'm behind the camera now, but everybody here can see me. The firebox is this portion right here. This is not the firebox, and that's what you're referring to, Paul, underneath the firebox.
Yeah.
All right. So the firebox is the actual box in which the gas logs will set. And a lot of these applications, you'll see underneath there will be a way to bring your plumbing in. That is not the firebox, and a ball valve that we're used to purchasing locally and use for all other appliances are legal to be placed in that location.
Okay.
So that would be correct. You can't put a ball valve in a masonry, a wood burning fireplace that now they want to go to gas logs unless it is listed for that application. You cannot put one inside these fireboxes unless it's listed for that application. You can put them underneath, where most manufacturers of these fireboxes have that space underneath to bring your plumbing in. But I wanted to talk about the ball valve itself separately. And then we'll get into the other thing that we see commonly used for this application is corrugated stainless steel tubing, CSST. Because it's flexible, because going into masonry or going up through, it's not easy to do rigid plumbing. And so everybody will use CSST to get it as close as possible. And then they'll go from there with a a standard UL listed connector. So let's talk about CSST. All right. So, Paul and Damon, if you have that picture that you can pull up, we're looking at the two different fireboxes and coming in underneath. Any firebox that has a metal flue that extends and penetrates the roof line, you cannot plumb CSST into it. You can't do it, right? And this goes back to the thin wall of the CSST and lightning strikes, right? There was a class action lawsuit that was actually settled in Arkansas back in the late 80s or 90s because of this. So what you would do if you have one that has a flue that extends and penetrates the roof line, you have to terminate that CSST outside the metal enclosure itself. And then you have to have a termination fitting or a piece of metal pipe that goes into the box. Then you can put your ball valve. Then you can bring your listed connector into that firebox and hook up those. If it does not have a flue that penetrates the roof line, it's a direct vent goes out and you've got this space underneath. You can bring that CSST all the way inside here. That's not a problem. But any CSST has to be protected in the opening from rubbing. It can't touch the metal. It has to be a grommet or something like that. Now, the only other thing with CSST, I talked to the engineer at Gas Tight. They don't allow their product to be run inside the firebox in any way, shape, or form, ever. Track pipe engineer said you can bring ours all the way to the control valve of the gas logs. All right. So when we talk to people or an end user, a consumer, and we've had a plumber in there, just because we see CSST going all the way inside the box and going to the fire, that's not an immediate no. Whose is it? Is it listed for that type of service? Because I'm finding out some CSST is and some is not. Okay. And so that's the deal with CSST. And then of course it all has to be grounded and bonded, per the manufacturer's instructions to begin with. So I don't know I don't know any CSST that can be used in a fireplace with a wood burning fireplace connecting to a starter, a log starter. That has to be piped. You can't bring CSST, anybody, in that situation, because you've got logs that are burning, falling off. You know, it's not a good deal. But
Does that mean no rubber hose too?
I'm sorry, Paul.
Does that mean no rubber hose too?
Yeah, no rubber hose. That means that's what that means. So does anybody know anything different than what I've just described between using CSST and ball valves for hooking up fireplaces? Okay. So when the inspectors go out or they get a call and a consumer says, "Hey, I don't think this plumber did it right," and they go to that location and they look and see if it is the proper CSST that's designed to go in the firebox, and the ball valve is either rated and located inside, or it is outside the firebox, or they have terminated the CSST outside and they're using a proper flex connector to run to it, then we're good to go. Casey, are you good with that?
Yeah, and I think it warrants, like, at some point that we get this almost out like a service bulletin, because I think there's a lot of confusion.
I think that could be good, especially because a lot of plumbers are running around hooking these things up, you know, and then in some cases, some dealers are coming up, they're looking down, they're seeing CSST or a ball valve, and they're just saying no. They're red tagging the system, and they might find out that ball valve is listed to be used in that application, and they've used the proper CSST. JC, what do you think? I think there needs to be a clear differentiation between logs that are set in a firebox and inserts. Because that picture there is an insert. There's a big difference between inserts and gas logs that you put in a fireplace. Put in a fire. Yeah. There's got to be a clear difference there. I would agree. I would agree. But what I said is that your understanding of the proper way to hook up a set of gas logs. Yes, sir. And with the terminating vent pipe through the roof, that's crucial for lightning strikes. But that goes with any of your healthy appliances that vent through the roof. They can't be plumbed into the control box with flex. With CSST. It's got to be hard pipe. And that's a good point that I left out, where we're concentrating on gas logs, but there are other appliances. You've got water heaters that has flues that penetrate. Okay, and so if you bring CSST all the way to that appliance, you can't do that. You've got to terminate. Good point. Thanks, JC. Okay, I will put something together, and as far as a reminder, a notification, a safety piece, and we'll distribute that to the permitted individuals, all class ones. Class ones, class threes, they'll have some installation people. Anybody that any classification that will have personnel that has the ability to do installs, and we'll get something out to them. Okay, anything else concerning the gas log discussion?
Yeah, can I say one, but
Uh-huh.
had a couple people call about gas logs going through the wall and the plumbers put those key knobs.
Uh-huh. It's a gas valve that's located in the wall that has a key.
We had a couple of dealers, class ones, that went in and they would not certify it as being legal because the key was not there, for one. And so they had no access to the shutoff valve. And that was the whole point. Well, what if you don't have the key to turn this valve off and without another valve somewhere down the way, for quick access in case of, fire breaks out or something.
Well, and Wendell, yeah, and that's a good point. And we are talking about rules, right? So a keyed valve is legal in this application. And the installation, 54 never looks at these gas valves as emergency valves to shut things off. They look at them as purely maintenance valves. So a keyed valve would be okay in this situation. What if the key is not there? Is that valve readily accessible? No. So I think it would be a case by case scenario with that type of valve. If a dealer walks in and says, that valve is not readily accessible. It's in the wall. We can't tear the drywall out to get to it. Where's your key? And if the key's there, no problem. If not, then they say, get you a key and give me a call. We'll be back, But that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. And am I okay to roll on? We good? All right. And I need to apologize to JC. I had him up further in the meeting and we just rolled. So I apologize. I would like JC to come to the table and talk to us about training. And the next thing I've got on the list is training. So we can kill two birds with one stone here. Welcome, JC.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate the invite to be here today.
If you would update us on the safety schools, how they went and what the attendance was like, I'd appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So in my opinion, the safety schools, the training this year went excellent. I received great feedback. These classes that I scheduled were set up for 2-hour sessions. We dealt with DOT compliance this year. Felt like that was something that would benefit not just the folks, the boots on the ground, the guys that are out there hauling gas and throwing cylinders every day, but I wanted to incorporate everybody into these training sessions. So from the owners to the office staff, to the managers, to the folks in the field that are doing these jobs every day. I wanted to make sure that everyone had, a high level and sometimes in-depth dive of what the requirements are. A lot of requirements are for DOT compliance. So we went through that and a lot of good feedback. Like I said, we trained, I had 454 students. I'll have 2 more tomorrow. We have 1 more makeup class tomorrow. So that'll bring a total of 456 for the annual safety training.
For the safety meetings
Annual safety meeting.
that we think of when we think of a safety meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. CTEP, we had 62 students this year.
CTEP, we don't use CTEP.
Oh, well,
The 40-hour school.
the 40-hour school, my apologies. The 40 hours.
We'll get there. We'll get there to use that. Well, I guess CTEP's going away, so we don't even, all right.
So formerly CTEP, the 40-hour school, we had 62 students. Those classes were great. And I know Kevin, gets on to me every time I say it, but I really want to thank, I'm thankful for the opportunity to use this nice facility. This is a really great place to bring our folks together across the state. This is a great central location here at the LP Gas Board, and we really appreciate that. And then I had 11 students that we went through cylinder requalification with this year. Over the past couple of months, I went and visited the folks up in Damascus and trained some folks up there. And then also went up to Bergman and trained some of the Anderson people up there. So Kevin and I talking about some of the need for cylinder recertification across the state of Arkansas for our marketers to kind of open things back up so the general public could have that benefit, that opportunity. And so we are moving in that direction with our marketers across the state.
Okay. And one of the trailers, we gifted a couple of trailers that used to be E&Es to the association, and JC now has one of those located at his premises, at his home, that he's working on to get ready to start utilizing. So we appreciate, and all I heard was positive, JC, from the safety meetings that everybody attended. And I've only heard positive things about the 40-hour school. We had 4 this year, and JC was trained all of them. Okay, now, are you good? Can we move on?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and I want you to stay there. With the current rules that are working their way through promulgation, one of the things that you all did at the last board meeting was give your okay for our industry training, and everybody that has the red, that is what we voted on last time. And it was a general talked about the type of training, how long. So that has already been approved. You all have already approved that. We need to move forward now and put that into practice. And so how do you do that? When you say that you have to have reoccurring training every 3 years, where do you start? And so this is what we'd like you to consider giving your blessing to get this ball rolling. Now this will happen at the first part of next year once the rules are completely promulgated that we're currently working on. Class 1 employees who attend the 40-hour school, that will be the initial training. Okay, so when we say that you have to have initial training, that will be the initial training. All those that attended the 40-hour school would be considered to have initial training in 2025. They would be required to start their reoccurring training in 2028. All right, within that 3-year span, they would need to update. So now we've got everybody else. He just said there were 62, right? So those 62 did their initial training. Those 62 will not be required to have recurring training for 3 years. Everybody else, all other employees would be sorted by service date and broken into thirds. The oldest third would be required to attend a recurring training in 2026, the second third in 2027, and the the last third in 2028. All right. So that's how we would get the program started in the state of Arkansas to comply with what you all voted on at the last at our last meeting. Now, what do we do for all those employees that are not class 1? They're class 2 through 10. We would say that all of those employees would be required to attend training in 2026. 100% of them. And I got to tell you that there's over 1,900 class 3. And JC, you weren't on the phone. I talked to Luke. And so I didn't want your eyes to pop out of your head when I said this, but.
We've spoken. He's on the phone, actually. He's listening as well, yes.
Oh, is he? So he is watching on PBS. All right.
I don't think he can log on, but he's listening.
Okay. All right. How is he doing that? Okay.
Couldn't see him, but maybe he got on.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but we talked about this and how we would get it done. And the APGA is going to bring us a master plan of how to take care of this for our December meeting. So we can be reassured, but just doing the quick math and understanding 9 locations around the state or something like that, being able to take care of 100% of those employees that are class 2 through 10, plus the first third of class 1s, which would be about 160, is doable. And they feel like they can get this done. So that would be the way to get this ball rolling, to meet the requirement of 58.
And how long would that training be for, like, say, the class 1s, for example? What would that be, a day or
6 hours.
6 hours? 6 hours.
Right. And the feeling is that this recurring training could be specialized. You know, you don't want to send your cylinder fillers to learn how to deliver gas out of a bobtail, right? So they would be, you know, JC might be in one location for several days in a row, and having people come into that. And, you know, one class, he might be teaching cylinder filling for all of our class 3s. The next one, he might be doing, you know, general installation training. But he would be able to do that and accommodate all the employees at that one location and then move on the next week to somewhere else. But that kind of planning, that's what they need to come back to us to and say, hey, here's how we're going to accomplish it.
Should we put together the dividing the class 1s up for those trainings for those 3 years?
That's correct. Mm-hmm. And those that have been in the industry the longest and have the oldest certification numbers, that third would be required to do it in 26. And then that second third in 27. And you know, the thinking is that the older your certification is, the further from the 40-hour school you are.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be who would go first for the reoccurring training. And then, of course, the further you got, then the closer you would have to your 40-hour school. So that's why we extended those out to 2028. We had to do it somehow. So this is just what we came up with. So is everybody good with this strategy to attack this? Paul, Damon, are you guys good with this?
I'm good with it.
I'm trying to get to my mute. Yes, I'm good with that.
Okay. All right. If I would like, Chair, if you would, for somebody just to put that in motion to accept the training schedule as presented.
I move that we accept the training schedule that has been presented.
Thank you, David.
Awesome.
All in favor?
All in favor?
All right. I appreciate that. And we'll have at our December board meeting, we'll have a plan for you all to consider. Thank you, JC. Yes, sir. All right. The last thing that we've got, and if you will look in your packet, you'll have a sheet that says transloading on it. And you know that we've had this rule that's already been promulgated as part of our rules, that we allow transloading to happen in the state of Arkansas. I would like for the board to consider conceptually a change in that rule, which would allow us to give temporary permission for a bobtail to either be transloaded at a rail site, or load at a rail site, or even a terminal. And here's why this came up. There were two things that happened in fairly close proximity to each other. One was a class 1 dealer wanted to expand a few counties from where he already had his class 1, and he was going to open up another office. At the time that he called, he was in discussions, and I don't even know who this was, but he was in discussions with another class 1 dealer to acquire them. And they had storage already in that county. Okay. So it would be beneficial to him if he could start operating in that county, by purchasing those counties. And there was a rail site that was close enough where he could take his bobtails in, but we would not allow that. Load until that transaction either happened or didn't happen, right? And so that's one instance that brought this to my attention. We don't allow bobtails to go in, all right? And another situation would be the one that happened that was just like 2 weeks later, was all the highway mess that's going on 167, or where I don't know what they're calling it now, 57 something. We're supposed to change the name of it, but they're redoing that up through there. And there was a company that was coming in that was melting all the asphalt that was being tore up, and they had a national contract, and there was a dealer that was some distance away, and they needed to transload from a transport into a bobtail to go fill this equipment for a week. And then they were going to be done with the project. All right. And so we don't have currently a way to say yes to that. We got both of these situations done and took care of. But I would like for us to consider changing language in our transloading bill that is going to be part of our larger moving to 58. We kept that out. And this needs to be viewed by the board today as just a concept, allowing us to use language that would allow a bobtail to do that. And this might be what the language would look like. If you look at your document there, we talk about rail car to transport cargo tank transfer, commonly called transload, is allowable under the following conditions. Installation must be done in accordance with 58. Installation is limited to 24 months. This would be an added line. Cargo tank transfers for transport service only. All right. A class 8 permit must be obtained and annual inspections must be conducted. Then we add a second line. Rail car to bobtail cargo transfer is allowable under the following conditions. A temporary permit must be obtained by class 1 permit holder. And number 2, permit will be issued for a specific number of days. C, transport cargo tank to bobtail cargo tank transfer, commonly called transloading, is allowable under the following conditions. A temporary permit must be obtained. The permit is issued for a specific number of days, and an inspector must conduct an inspection must be conducted prior to transloading. That is to make sure that the location, the actual physical location that they're doing the transloading, is safe, and they're off the highway and they're away. And this is just some proposed language, but something like this. And then I was talking to Paul about this here the other day, and he brought up the fact where we've been talking about this trailer, the self-contained trailer. So what if we have a huge catastrophe like Louisiana happened? Y'all remember when that tornado went up through the western side of the state and just tore up everything? And they were days and days and days and days and days. And they were asking us to just run any trucks we could down there. Don't worry about permitting or anything. Just come down here and get people gas. So they could fire up their generators, so they could keep their families cool. If that something like that happened up here, we would have the ability then on a temporary basis to handle that kind of a catastrophe. But so does anybody have any questions concerning allowing bobtails to do this on a temporary basis? What we don't want to have happen is we don't want to promote fly by night companies. And that's always been the concern with allowing a bobtail to go straight to a terminal to load. You could go out here and buy you a 1948 30,000 that the data plate meets the requirements, bring it into the state, never hook it up, take your bobtail and run into the terminal, and you're meeting the letter of the law, but not the intent, right? And just running into a terminal, loading your bobtail, and then something happens, and next thing you know, they're gone. We don't want that. We don't want to promote that. And this is not what we're talking about here. This would be issued on a case by case situation, and could help the industry in certain situations.
I think I think it gives us flexibility. My only question is, on C3, is it just inferred that it's a compliant inspection? Must be obtained prior to,
Yeah, the inspection must be done prior to the transloading happening.
must be compliant, meaning no deficiencies.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It would require an on-site inspection from one of our inspectors, and they would actually work with them to locate the operation to make sure that it is not under high lines, to make sure it's off the road far enough.
And so if they didn't meet some of those criteria in the inspection, then they wouldn't be granted.
That's correct. They would not get the temporary permit.
Got it, okay. That's the contingency, got it.
Mhm.
I think very much with us not having terminals in the state, I think this is good to have this as a emergency situation and have it done legally, because Kevin, we talked about this. There's been several times that we loaded bobtails when we had no power on transport. I'm just being honest. We've done that. We've had to do that to keep our customers from running out. And we're told 7 or 8 days of power. We had several trucks that just couldn't get away.
That's correct. If your bobtail is not set up to self-load, you have no way to get fuel on that truck. And now you got customers freezing to death all over the place. When you could have a transport slide in there and get those trucks loaded. This would allow us to do that.
This is real world. This is what happens.
This is real world. That's right, PC.
I move that we approve this.
You approve the concept of this, all right? We've got, we don't want this to be discussed at this stage in the form of a rule. Just in the form of concept, and then later on, when all the language is worked out, then we'd come back and for y'all's approval.
Concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I like it.
All right.
Can I get a motion to approve the concept of allowing bobtails to load terminals?
Do we even need a motion on it, Kevin?
Yeah, I think just to give me some direction, so everybody's on the same page. But I think Mr. Remy has already done it, and Mr. Terry has seconded.
All in favor?
Okay, I know this was a long drawn out. We had a lot of stuff. I appreciate everybody's attention and input. Mr. Chair, and unless there is a member or somebody else has anything else, that's all I have.
Get a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Take you long to adjourn. All right, I appreciate y'all. Damon, PC, you all have a good day. Appreciate y'all being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.